All right, welcome in on Monday, 420. This is a special edition of Full Court Press with Coach Jay. I have my good friend, sister on with me, Coach Nicole Woods. She's an assistant coach at University of Charlotte, North Carolina, Charlotte, UNCC. I'll let her tell you about herself a little bit. But before I do that, I'm going to ask her a funny question, and we're going to get started from there. Coach, at what point in your coaching career or even playing career at that moment did you get that one whooping that made you realize like basketball is real? People take this seriously. Like what butt whooping was it that made you realize that?
I wouldn't say butt whooping. I didn't get many butt whoopings when I was younger, so I can't relate there. I did a lot of the whooping. I do remember. So when I was a kid, I played with the Boys and Girls Club. I started playing for real when I was like 8. Before that, I just played with the boys in the neighborhood. And when I got to the Boys and Girls Club, the guy Boogie Crank, he was like my idol. He used to play and all of that stuff. And he's like, no, you're not playing on the girls team anymore. He put me on the boys team. Right. And I remember from about 8 all the way to middle school, I played on the boys team. And I wouldn't say whooping, but I remember like boys just took it a lot more serious than what girls did. You know, it was a lot more physical. It was a lot more, like, you better come in here to play or else you ain't gonna play no more. And right. So I remember then thinking, okay, I need to be the one, what's the word I'm looking for? Bringing the pain instead of being the one taking the pain. Cause I definitely didn't want to be able to be getting that from the boys. And so that was my mentality, kind of like Michael Jordan. Look, I'm gonna, put the pain on you before you could do it to me. And so I think that was the first whooping.
I was just about to say you got that Michael Jordan mentality. I'm gonna bring the pain instead of getting.
Absolutely.
We'll go into the Last Dance a little bit here in a little bit. But who were your biggest influences coaching wise, and what made you actually get into coaching?
My friends laugh all the time. I never wanted to coach. Never one day in my life. I think all of my teammates and my friends knew that I was going to be a coach way before I did. No desire. I saw all of the headaches that my teammates would give my coaches. I was like, ain't no way I'm going to do that, for these, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds and stuff. I'm like, no, I have no desire to do that. I love to play way more. Still, I mean, coaching and playing is completely different. You never get the feeling from playing that you got while you were playing. It's different as a coach. And so I never wanted to coach. How I got into coaching, my coach I had my first 3 years at Belmont Abbey, Missy Tiber, she left my senior year, went to Tusculum College, and then fast forward a few years, she did well there and got the head job at Southern Illinois University in Carbondale, Illinois. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I had just come back from playing overseas and was running a Boys and Girls Club after school program. And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed, the relationship with the young people, being able to shape and mold them at that, impressionable age. And I was getting ready to go back to get my master's to do that full time. And she got wind of it and basically called me up and said, hey, I heard you're getting ready to go back to grad school. I just got this job. How about you come be my GA? Help me get the program up and going. You get a free master's, then you could go do whatever you want to do. If you want to coach, I'll help you do that. If you want to, go back and do your Boys and Girls Club thing or something like it, no problem. And so I say all the time, she tricked me into coaching because she knew that my calling in life is to help people, period. And that's why I coach. And that's my big reason is the relationship with the players. I always say, I was taught early on in my coaching career, the definition of a coach, just from one place to another. Hence, a bus is called a coach. You can fly first class or coach on an airplane. On the train car is called a coach. Because they all transport. And so that's my job as a coach. And so I think once I got into being a GA and really seeing the impact that I could have on these young ladies, being able to be an example to them. You don't have to be this, you don't have to be that, what the world says you have to be. You can be this and still be, successful in life.
So tell me about your coaching journey after you left Southern Illinois, where you went. Obviously, you're at UNC-Charlotte now. I know that. I know a little bit more, but people watching don't know your full story. So give us a little bit of your full story of where you went.
So after Southern Illinois, I graduated in 2011. And so after that, my coworker that I had at SIU, Bette Shelby, she started her coaching career at Stetson University. And so I was actually down in Tampa, Florida for a BCA National Convention, Black Coaches Association, and got the call from Lynn Bria, the head coach at Stetson. And Bette had given her my name and said, "Hey, I've got an entry-level coaching position. She tells me that you would be good at it. When do you think we can set some time up to talk?" I said, "Coach, I'm only 2 hours away. I could drive over there right now, because I'm in Tampa, Florida." And I'll never forget, it was raining cats and dogs. Went over there, met with her, fast forward, ended up being hired there. She is my greatest mentor in the coaching game, Lynn Bria. She very much made me who I am as far as a coach. I don't know if people know, at Stetson, you got to do a little bit of everything at the time. So we were strength and conditioning. We were academic support. We were everything that went on with the program. That's what we did. And I got my hands into a little bit of everything. And so when I left there, I was well-versed to do whatever I needed to do, whether it was recruiting, scouting, player development, all of that. And we had 2 very good years while I was there. My last year, 2013, we won the conference tournament championship game, played in the NCAA tournament. Pretty sure we were a 13 seed, which was the highest seed ever at the time. Played UCLA. It was a great experience. And then I got an opportunity after that to come back home. I'm from right outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, Gastonia, North Carolina. I'm not the one that claims the big city. I'm from the gas house, as we call it. And that was in 2013. And I've been here ever since. So just finished up my 7th year. Enjoy working for my boss, Coach Kara Consuegra. It's funny. We joke about it all the time. We could not be more different. She is a complete introvert. I'm a complete extrovert. I am her yin to her yang, we are just complete opposites, yet we work so well together. I respect her tremendously. I love what she's doing with our program, and I'm here for the long haul to help her do whatever she sees fit for us to do.
Well, with that being said, let's go back a little bit to your journey at SIU. You went in, new head coach, new program, you were new GA. So talk about how y'all built culture and what do you ultimately think it takes to build culture in a program, and then fast forward to UNC-Charlotte, because that's where you currently are, and how y'all built the culture there.
Right. Well, when I was a GA, I always say, I was just trying to keep my head above water. I did everything as a GA. We didn't have a DOBO, and we didn't have a video coordinator. So I was all of that. I was camp director. I was in charge of community service. I literally did everything on top of my schooling, of course, because I was in school full time. And so, a lot of the detailed stuff for me as a GA was a blur in terms of, like culture and things like that. I know we did stuff, but I wasn't really involved with that much. I was too busy trying to keep everything else afloat. But at Stetson and at Charlotte, we are, a lot of people talk about culture, but all it is just words on a wristband or something that's up on the wall. At Stetson, it was hats, helping the teammates succeed. At Charlotte, it's heart, winning with heart, effort, accountability, respect, and toughness. And both places, you could ask any player or anybody associated with the team, not just what that stood for, but what it meant and what it looked like. For us here at Charlotte, what it looked like on the court and off the court to be accountable, what it looked like off and on the court to be respectable, things of that nature. And, we're firm believers that the core values and the culture of who you are as a team. These are things that will take you way further than basketball, you know, because if you're learning to do something to the best of your ability now, to give the great effort, be accountable, respect, and to be able to persevere through tough situations, you're going to be able to make it in life and whatever they decide to do once this ball stops bouncing, you know? And so culture is big for us at Charlotte. I think we do an amazing job of it. We vet who we're recruiting extensively, more than they even know. To the fact we even, when we have elite camp, we send out a survey for them to take out to conduct, and we get it sent back to us. And through the survey, we've kind of identified the types of kids that we can recruit based off of who my head coach connects with the most. And if you're not within that, then we don't recruit you most of the time. Like, it's as simple as that. I don't care how good you are. And I think that mix of us being able to have kids that fit us, you know, it might be a knock on us because we don't offer everybody. We don't offer everybody because everybody can't play for us. And it's just as simple as that. And so I think there's enough out there today to be able to like really vet, you know, who you're bringing in, from social media to just everything. I always say it's our job to find the information as coaches. The information's out there, but you got to go out there and you got to vet it, and you have to be the one that will, you know, do your due diligence.
Well, since you're on recruiting, let's talk about that a little bit. Outside of that, talk about the importance of, once y'all have identified those certain players, so to speak, that relate with Coach Consuegra and the whole staff for that matter, talk about how intensive or in-depth you get as far as social media, recruiting the parent, recruiting, you know, talking to, I talked to a coach the other day, they said, I talked to guidance counselors. Mike Jarvis actually said, I talked to guidance counselors, I talked to ministers, preachers, Sunday school teachers, everything, the whole nine. So just talk about how deep y'all go in that, and talk about the importance that parents are being recruited to.
That's funny you said that. Mike Jarvis, he is exactly right. We call it the bullseye, right? So the eye of the bullseye is the direct people who are the most influential in the kid's life. Whoever that is, that could be the guidance counselor, that could be the preacher, the mama, daddy, whoever. Then the second one is that next realm of people. And then the third circle is that next realm of people. And you're right, we recruit all of them. My thing is the parents. Any of my players will tell you, like, clearly, most of the time, I'm good with the student athletes too. I just am. But the parents is like my gift. Man, those parents right now, any of them will tell you. If nothing else, they know when their kid comes to Charlotte, Coach Woods is gonna make sure that their kid is taken care of. Period. And that's what most parents are concerned about, right? The basketball is the basketball. Like, they're gonna play. They're going to be able to get a lot of different things from a lot of different programs. But having somebody that cares. I have a couch in my office now, and I call myself Dr. Phyllis, you know, because they just come sit on my couch, you know, put their feet up. We got a little pillow, you know, it's almost like a little counseling session. And so I think the parents in that circle is extremely important, because most of the time, those are going to be the influencers. Those are going to be the ones that are going to be helping the student athlete make this decision. And they need to be comfortable on where they're going to, you know, send their student athlete. And then just the recruiting, as far as like the social media, everybody's different. Personally, I take 30 minutes before I go to bed every night, and every single recruit that I am recruiting, I will go through their social media pages. Absolutely. And I've stopped recruiting kids based off of what I've seen off of their social media. Because guess what? When they get to us and they start putting that stuff down, guess who's going to be the one that has to police that? No. Not when I could go get somebody that's just as good and I don't have to worry about that.
Right.
You know, and, you know, I tell my players all the time, like, you are your own brand, period. What you do now, like, your employers, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to type in your name in Google and see what pops up. Social media, they're going to look at all of that stuff. And so, you know, you have to, I tell them all the time, perception is reality. Whatever you put out there for people to see, that's who they are going to assume that you are. And so you shouldn't be putting anything out there that you don't want people to associate you with, period, point blank. And that's just the way it is. And so the recruiting aspect is always important. You know, it's the lifeline to any program. You know, without players, none of us are here. You know, I don't know what Krause is talking about. Look, if you don't have no good players, man, I mean, and they got to get out there and they got to perform. We could put them out there all we want to, but they got to get out there and they have to do what they're supposed to do. All of us do.
Yeah, Jerry Krause was a little bit off with that scenario that the organization makes the team. No, y'all don't play 1 second, grab one rebound, score one basket, any of that. And here's a question I'm going to ask you that one of my coaching buddies, we were talking this morning, he said, do the players make the coach or do the coaches make the player? And he chose the player. I chose the coach. I said, because I think the coach has to develop the players. It's an ongoing relationship for life. Player-coach relationship is a lifetime relationship. So I chose that the coach helps develop the player. He said the player. I said, but they go hand in hand because you can't have either one without the other.
Well, I think if I agree. I think they go hand in hand, you know, but if I had to choose one, I pick the player, actually.
Why?
Because I'll just go back to myself, you know. It didn't matter what coach told me. If coach told me I could just go out there and be me, I can win us some games, period. You know, you didn't have to give me no structure. You didn't have to tell me this. I could go out there and I can win some games. Now, my coaches can make it easier for me to win those games. They can put me in better situations to be able to go out and execute, you know, to help to alleviate the stress of, okay, how am I going to do this? But when you put the best players out there, they got to go out there and play. Now, where I think Phil Jackson was a mastermind is how he managed them all. That is the big thing, you know, being able to manage them all, manage the personalities and things of that nature. But when you just sitting there talking about players, man, it's all about the players, because I could be the best coach in the world. I can be the best thematically. I can be the best everything. But if I don't have players out there, it don't matter. Recruiting is the lifeline of the program.
Let's add into that the management piece of being not just a head coach or a coach in general, because as an assistant coach, you got to help the head coach manage those things. So talk about, because he was a mastermind. I mean, you got to manage Dennis Rodman, who was at that time dressing like a girl, wearing the pink and red hair or whatever color hair he felt like wearing. And then you had Scotty, who was doing his thing. And then you had the Michael Jordan, who was probably not the easiest guy to play with. And he probably wasn't the easiest guy to coach because he was so good. Just talk about how important it is to manage all the personalities and then coach players differently.
Well, I always say that everybody is treated fairly, right? So there's never going to be anybody who's just ostracized because of this, that, and the other. Everybody's treated fair, but everybody's not equal. And that's hard for a lot of kids, especially, to really grasp that concept. Like, you know, for example, for us, Jade Phillips was our all everything player. She was our Michael Jordan. Not only was she the best player, she was the hardest worker, and she was the most competitive, just like Michael. So when you have those three, you know, combinations right there, she does have a lot more leeway than what somebody else would, because she's earned that. She's put that work in to be able to be that. So you can't compare yourself to her because you're not her and you're not in her situation. You're not in her shoes. You haven't, you know, exhibited basically what it takes for her to have that type of rope. You know what I'm saying? She has a longer leash, if that makes sense. And so I think what happens, we always tell our players, look, you need to compete. You don't need to compare, you know, because everybody's different. Everybody is 100% different. You know, we are a very different program. We've had freshmen that have started for years. You know, if you come in and put the best work in and you're the best fit for us, and we don't care if you're a freshman or a senior, you're going to play. And that's just the way that we operate. And I think that, you know, a lot of times, like, it's difficult on the coaching end, you know, especially don't be a deep team where you got a whole bunch of players that can play like we do. You know, yeah, you probably could have played. I think just because you work hard that you're supposed to play. No, that's a prerequisite. you definitely not going to play if you're not even going to be on the team if you're not working hard most of the time. So
Right.
just because you worked hard in high school and you were able to play and have the benefits of it doesn't mean that translates to college, if that makes sense. You know, you got to be able to go to the next level to be able to get what you want to get out of it.
Speaking of, let's talk a little philosophy.
Okay.
And I know that you've been at Charlotte for 7 years, so let's talk a little bit of that. What do you all focus on offensively and then defensively, and then just talk about that. Talk about the coach's philosophy a little bit, offensively first, and then let's feed off of that, and then we'll go a little bit defense and then talk about that.
So we just recently changed our offense a couple years ago now. We used to be a team that ran the read and react offense. And I'm a believer in the read and react offense. I'm a believer on players being able to make reads and being able to, play the game, and not be robots. We had a shift in personnel over a few years and that therefore had to move away from that. But I think it's a great offense personally. We run more of a ball screen offense now, and it's more based off of the personnel that we have. We've got a really good point guard and really good guards just off the ball, with the ball in their hands, period. And so we wanted to put them in better situations to be able to create some mismatch advantages in within the game. And so we run a ball screen offense, mainly wing ball screen, high ball screen. But we are very much still, we like to be inside out, which is a lost art today. The guards, they're all jacking shots up, and the post players want to stand out there and jack shots up too. And nobody wants to be in the paint, but we still like to get the ball inside and play from the inside out. Now, transition, we like to try to score in the first 7 seconds if we can. We like to get up and down. We pride ourselves in being the most conditioned team. There's no time that you'll watch us and say, oh, Charlotte looks tired out there. I can't think of any time this year that I felt that during the game. And so that's kind of what we do offensively. Defensively, we're a little bit different. We kind of run a modified pack line defense. We kind of curtailed it to what we wanted it to be. In a nutshell, for us, we don't want anybody to go and touch the middle of the paint. We want to send them baseline. We want to be able to have rotations based off of that, but we want to try to level them to where we don't have to have a rotation. We don't deny we play in the gaps so that you'll be able to have some support there for you getting up, pressuring the ball if you do get beat. And so that is a big thing that we do. And then we also have another philosophy that was coined by our men's assistant coach, Aaron Fern. He's a native of New Zealand, but coached in the Australian National League for a decade, I'm pretty sure. And he just came over to us. I think this is his second or third year now with us, a concept of tagging up. And I really think this helped us to kind of take the next level, take our game to the next level this year. The concept is basically, when you shoot the ball, normally you have at least one person back as the safety, right? You have everybody else crash. That's just normal basketball 101, right? Well, we send everybody to the glass. All 5 people we send to the glass. Their job is to tag up. So basically forearm in the back of the defender to drive them up under the basket so that therefore when the rebound comes off, it's either ours, it's going to be our ball, or they're going to get it. And now we're in perfect position for transition defense. Whoever you tag up, that is who you have on transition defense. And when I tell you think about how much time you spend trying to teach transition defense. And not only did it increase our offensive rebounding, we very rarely got beat in transition last year. So I think those are a few things and philosophies that really helped kind of take us to the next level this year.
We'll have to talk about that read and react some, not on this, but just in general.
Okay.
With the gaps, I hear a lot of coaches saying that now. I think one of the first people that I remember playing in the gaps was Rick Pitino. And then I first played in that my sophomore year in college, because my first year at Western Kentucky, Coach Felton was on the line, up the line, we're denying, we're putting pressure on everything. And so what do you think the importance, outside of being beat on penetration, what is the importance of having gap help? Because Mike Jarvis even talked about this the other day, that he would put pressure on the ball, but he'd back people up into the gap. So talk about it a little bit in terms of, outside of being beaten penetration, what would be the purpose of the gaps?
I just think protecting the paint, like you think about it. Once a player gets into the paint, they could do whatever they want to do there. They can shoot it, of course. They can kick it out to a 3-point shooter. They can dump it down into the post to a post up. It is just, and the help, like, where does the help come from at that point? You can't orchestrate where the help is going to come from because you're wide open. Everybody needs to be guarded at this point. And so I think, we preach, trying to keep the ball on one side of the floor or the other, right? So that then people know where they're supposed to be, where the help needs to come from. And when you allow people to get into, we call it the middle third, into that middle third, they just are wide open to be able to see the entire court and be able to really see and pick you apart. Whereas when you're in the gaps and you're taking that away, now they have to pitch it. They have to pass it to somebody else. Now, we have a better shot to be able to defend them, if that makes sense. So that's our thought behind it.
Would that mean you work on closeout some? Because if you're gap penetration, you're stopping the penetration, you're going to have a lot of closeouts that you have to break down on. And because that's going to be out of a rotation because you're stopping the gap, so you got to get there. So closeouts will be big in your defense? Yeah,
we do closeouts almost every day.
Gotcha.
Almost every day. And then we're different. So we have different players close out differently. So, for example, Jade Phillips, crazy athlete, right? She can guard she's all defensive team. She can guard anybody. So she's what we call a close talker. And that means you up in her face, she should be able to smell your breath, your breath when you're up pressuring her. And then we have some other folks who aren't great defenders, right? Their job is to be a handshaker. So a handshaker's basically distance away when they shake their, when they put their hand out to where they can still contest, have a high hand, and still be able to cut them off of their first dribble. And so we teach them based off of who you are, how to close out, so that at the end of the day, you want to be able to guard one-on-one. Like, you got to be able to guard your man. Like, sometimes you're going to get beat. You don't need to be relying on the help. You got to guard your man. In order to guard your man, it starts with the closeouts first and foremost. So yeah, we do them like every day.
So I'm gonna ask this question too. With practice time, I know that in college you get a little more free time. You get 2.5, 3 hours, or whatever it may be. You get a little more flexibility with time versus high school, because you got that 2.5 hour window. Right. Where you got to get your own floor time in, and you probably got to get weights in that window as well. So maybe a 3 hour max in high school daily. And that's just if you have multiple gyms with not a whole lot of teams. Mm-hmm. So how long do y'all take to prepare for just one practice? No games coming up. You're just going into practice. Let's say it's your third practice of the year. You've gotten through the Midnight Madness. Right. You've gotten through the first couple of practices. Now you're getting ready for that first long week of practices. How long as a staff do you think y'all take to prepare for practice? And then how long do you prepare individually for it?
Yeah, so we and let me make sure I'm answering your question correctly. So you're saying like we're just going in and like having like a practice meeting, or you're talking about like right now going up into preparing for the first practices?
Well, okay, let's just say you've already had Midnight Madness, so to speak, yep. Which is that Friday, and then yep. You'll have a couple practices. That you might have a practice that Saturday, it takes Sunday off, but now you're into that first full week of practice. Yep. No game. You're like 2 or 3 weeks away from a game. How much time do you take to prepare for each practice, like Monday practice, Tuesday practice, and so on down the line?
Gotcha. So for us, our practices at the beginning are pretty long. They're going to probably be 2.5 hours for sure. Maybe 3, just kind of depending. And the reason is that it's a lot of breakdown, it's a lot of stopping, and a lot of teaching, a lot of, kind of downtime. So that's why they're pretty long. We have practice meetings every morning, usually around 10 a.m. In that time, the night before, each coach will email my head coach, hey, this is some things I thought we did well. These are some things that I think we need to be able to get better at. This, that, and the other. And then we'll come together the next morning and put it all together. Gotcha. And so That's how we'll kind of do that at the beginning of the season. As the season gets on and we start playing games, then of course the practice times will condense down. Now, January, I'll shoot you over an article. The Charlotte Observer did an article on us. I think it was towards the end of January. We like drastically cut our practice times. Myself and our strength and conditioning coach would have conversations all the time about, the girls as far as their recovery, things of that nature, and it just was not great. And she kept recommending that we cut practice time, and I'm like, oh Lord, what you mean cut practice time? Coach isn't gonna go for that. But once we showed her the data on it, she agreed. So after that, we didn't practice any more than an hour and a half, period. From the end of January on basically through the rest of the season, sometimes an hour. And we won 9 of our last 10 games within a stretch, and then was great at the end. And I thought it had a lot to do with our getting in, let's hit what we have to hit to be able to be successful. And then, the meat and potatoes, and then we'll go from there. If they don't know about now, they're not going to know it. Period, point blank. It's no point of beating a dead horse, like we've trained them up. They got to get out there and execute. And I think it really helped us.
That is so much my saying. I've had some coaches and some people be like, why do you think like that? I said, because if we've been working on this since September, even in high school, you're working on your foundations of your system, your fundamentals. You're working on the stuff that you're going to be doing in mid-January to be successful. And if I'm still having to go 2.5, 3 hours in January, you don't know it. And you're not going to know it. There's no point.
Nope, you're exactly right.
For these kids these days, I think they don't. I'm not going to say they don't take it as important and see it as an importance as we did when we were playing. Talk about strength and conditioning and how important that is, because I know when I was in the D League, I'll give you this example. When I was in the D League playing with the LA Defenders, I got to see Kobe's work ethic firsthand, not like full firsthand, but I got to see a lot of it firsthand. And on game day, while we were in our shoot around, he was in the weight room full. It wasn't light workout. It was, I'm going to lift. And then when they get off the court, because we had to be off at a certain time because of Kobe time, he was coming in an hour and a half before their actual shoot around and putting up shots. So talk about how important weightlifting and weight training is, and how important the weight room can keep you from being injured and so on down the line, how important it is and how it helped y'all, obviously, because it helped cut down on practice time and that type of thing.
Right. I think that is as far as on the court, people ask me a lot of times, what is the biggest transition for high school players to college? And I think it's the weight room, the strength and conditioning and the nutrition aspect of it. You're going to get out of your body what you put in. And then, your body is a machine. So you have to fine tune your machine. And I think our strength and conditioning coach, Stacey Hummer, she is absolutely amazing. She is very good at taking them where they're at, and being able to get them where we need them to be or where we need them to go. For example, our starting point guard, Jada McMillian, last summer, she needed to get her body in better shape. She needed to be able to lose a few pounds and just get her conditioning up. And she worked with Stacey all summer long. I know she hated it. But let me tell you, we would not have won 20 plus games this year had it not been for her, and she was able to play 40 minutes, very rarely ever asked to come out. And I think Stacey had a lot to do with that. We've also got some players that need to gain weight. We had one of our post players gain 12 pounds last year, which was an act of God. This child's been trying to gain weight her entire time at Charlotte, so it's extremely important. They have to understand. I always tell kids, you're gonna practice and you're gonna be in the weight room way more than you play games. Period. Like, this is where all the work goes in. This is what's going to correlate to you being successful on the court. And I think a lot of kids, the earlier that they are able to grasp that concept, the better off they are going to be. They have to just understand that this is something that has to be done in order for you to physically to continue to be able to compete, because it's a total different dynamic. Injury prevention, all of those things that are going to be able to help you to stay on the court. So some of them get it earlier and sooner than others. Let's just say that.
So how big of an impact, I'll ask a couple more questions and then we'll get off of here. How big of an impact how important is the weight room as it pertains to the speed of the game? Because I know for me, going from high school to college, the speed changed because now you're 18-year-old freshman playing with 22, 19, 20, 22-year-old kids, girls or boys. And some people discredit the speed of the girls' game. And when they really don't understand that the girls' game was actually faster because of the shorter shot clock, the no 10-second backcourt. Now everybody's at 30-second shot clock. But talk about the speed of the game and let some people know how the speed of the game for girls basketball is really faster than it looks on TV.
Well, you could just ask any Division I, Division II, Division III athlete, NAIA, they'll tell you. It is completely different. You know, you just go from being, most of the kids are the best player on their high school teams, you know, to where you're able to do whatever. Usually you're faster, stronger, bigger, all of that stuff. And then you get to the college game and everybody's the same. So, okay, everybody's the same. So what are you going to do now? What are you going to do to differentiate yourself from this person and that person? I'll never forget my senior year at Belmont Abbey. It was a young lady named LaShonda Childs. She started out at Anderson and finished up at Lander. And for years, she was the number one scorer in all of Division II. And I can remember when I would train on my own, because again, we didn't have any summer access then. And right when I would be almost about to give up, I'd say, man, LaShonda Childs ain't giving up. Like, I know she in there working out. I can't work, you know, I can't let her outdo me, you know? And so, like, you have to understand that in order for you to get where you want to go, you got to give a little bit more. You know, you got to give a little bit more. And then once you give a little bit more, it'll be easier for you to give the next time. And you don't know what your body's capable of doing because you've never had to push it.
Right.
And so you have to be able to go out and push and push and push yourself to get the best out of you. Like, that's all our jobs are as coaches, is to be able to get the best out of you. Now, you make everybody's job easier when you go and you push yourself to be able to do that. But the speed of the game, especially our conference is a speed conference. And so if you can't guard, I always say, okay, you can guard 20. If you can put up 20, you sure better not be giving up 20. Or if you're giving up 20, you better be putting in 30. Because if not, you're going to be sitting right there beside me, because you have to be able to defend. And these guards, and especially, they are quick as lightning. Hence why we do closeouts every single day.
Okay, I got a question from one of the viewers asked a question, and I'll word it to my way so that you can not necessarily understand it, but just get where I'm coming from.
Okay.
So being a Division I assistant women's basketball coach, girl comes to you as a freshman, maybe a sophomore, having some good success, and they tell you, hey, coach, I want to play professionally.
Yep.
Are you pointing them in the direction of preparing them for the WNBA, or are you going to prepare them to go overseas? Because I know that for the NBA, you're going to get found wherever you are. Like, if you can play, they're going to find you. The WNBA, it's kind of, I'm not going to say may not be right when I make this statement, but the WNBA is kind of a Power 5 type situation. And then every now and then the girls who are at the Charlottes, the Western Kentuckys, and those type of places, they get looked at, but then a lot of times they get invited to camp, but they're just as good as some of the people who get drafted. So where do you point your player? And if it's to the WNBA, why? What do you tell them? If it's just overseas, what do you tell them in that?
We don't point them in one way either, as far as WNBA or, overseas. You know, this year there was a young lady that was drafted number 5 from Princeton, right? Ivy League mid-major. There was a young lady from JMU, Holy Cross, I'm pretty sure. I think there was about 6 or 7 mid-major kids that were drafted. Now, I'm a firm believer in that if you're that good, they're going to find you. You know, the WNBA has scouts as well.
Right.
And so they have people that go out to watch these games and to be able to evaluate. So you got to be able to put up numbers. And if you're putting up numbers, they're going to find you. As far as, you know, which way we direct them, I played overseas. My boss and Tanisha Wright, who's top 10 in assists in the WNBA, just retired last year. between all of us, we've got all kinds of different connections, you know, in terms of being able to help our players in whatever they want to do after basketball. And so I think they need to focus on putting up numbers, ask them to do. If they do that, then all of that stuff is kind of a byproduct of it. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to put the horse before the cart. You got to go out and put the work in, and just know that if that's something that you want to do, there are different avenues for you to be able to do that and get there.
Right. So they asked another question. Do they make more money? Do women make more money? Truthfully, until this new bargaining agreement with the WNBA, where I think the minimum player now is making $130,000, I think, and some of the better players are making upwards of $500,000. Wouldn't it have been that they would have made more money overseas now? But now the WNBA has put that new bargaining agreement in, so now people like Candace Parker and those type, they can make that $500,000, and some of the ones that are coming out, like the ones that just got drafted, they're going to make that $130,000. So now would you say that it's more competitive? It will be a little more competitive with the WNBA versus going overseas? Because I know Brittany Griner was in China at one point in time making like $3 or $4 million in like 6 months.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I definitely think now they have the choice now, you know, to where you could come here, you could play for 6 months and do whatever else you want to do, business wise, school wise, whatever it is. After that, I think before that, it wasn't really a choice. If you wanted to be able to make a decent living, you had to play overseas, period, you know, because that's where the money was. Now, like you said, this new collective bargaining agreement is giving people an opportunity to have a life here and have that life for 12 months, basically not having to split their time. Now, if they want to do that, that's great. I do think it's going to hurt some of the professional, you know, teams overseas, because people are going to have options, which means they're going to have to pay them even more if they want them to come over now. So kudos to everyone that got this collective bargaining agreement going. You know, nothing is ever perfect, right? But I think the strides in which they made with this, and from the different benefits and just everything, I think it is putting our league in a lot better place.
Yes, I am happy for the WNBA. I also think that at one point in time they were talking about making the NBA be from I think they said something to December, and then it wouldn't interrupt with the WNBA. I think that would be great, because the women deserve something to December all the time. Two more questions, and then I know some other stuff, so I know you gotta go here. What, outside of helping people, because that was one of the things we talked about early, what are two important characteristics about you as a coach that people should know when they think of Nicole Woods? They're going to think of, okay, I know she likes to help people. I know that for a fact, 100%. I've known you for a few years now. And I know you like to help people, because I've seen it, because I've been at team camp, I've been at individual camp, I've come to games, the whole nine. We've been around each other for a while. So tell me two most important characteristics about you as a coach that people, when they see Nicole Woods, they're going to be like, I know she's doing that. Or if they go there, they're going to get this from her.
Right. I call it my triple P as far as my coaching philosophy. The first one is passion. I'm always the energy person. You know, I don't care if we just gave up a game that we should not have lost. I'm never, and if I do come in a bad mood, then you know something's really wrong. But I always try to be that light to them. And regardless, you know, I treat people for who they are, not what they do. And I think a lot of coaches get that, you know, twisted. You know, this isn't just a parasitic relationship, right? This is a mutual thing, and there's a give and take on both ends. And so I think it's important for them to see consistency, right? However I am, that's how I'm going to be. And I'm passionate at everything I do. I'm always going to be positive, you know. Now, I'm going to tell you if you do something wrong, absolutely. But I'm always the glass is half full instead of half empty type person. So they know that they're going to get that from me. And then perseverance is my third one. Like I tell people all the time, all I am is a teacher, you know, just the basketball court is my classroom. And so it is an important life lesson for them to know that even though you fail or even though you come up short, you got to keep going. You got to keep going. Like, this is a life lesson. You cannot just fall down. If you're going to go out, you got to go out swinging. You got to go out swinging. You got to go out giving it your best. And so they're going to get that. And like I said, they all know that they're going to be able to come to me. I'm going to be the one that's going to those are, if you ask anybody associated with our program or any kids that I've recruited, their coaches, they'll be able to tell you they're gonna get those things from me, period.
Will you repeat those 3 P's so that somebody wants to write them down?
Yep. The first one is passion. The second one is positivity. And the third one is perseverance.
It's good. So I'll make this, I said 2 more questions, so this will be number 2. Okay. So this will be our last question.
If you need to.
Okay, I'll hold you for 2 more questions.
Okay.
All right. A lot of times when you ADs or like when you go on interviews, they talk about the identity of a team. What are they going to see if they walk into a practice that's being ran by you? Obviously, you just said that you have passion. You're the energy person. I am that same person. I'm energy. And I think sometimes for me being 6'7", 320 now, because I'm out of shape, but I think that goes into I'm the angry Black coach. Talk about how that passion is it's just passion. It's not really anything indifferent, because I mean, you know me outside of basketball and know that me being that rough guy and look like the big bad bully on the sideline, that's not who I am. Right. But talk about what a practice or why identities of a team are important, because a lot of my teams take on my identity of toughness. We're going to pressure you. We're going to pick you up when you pull in the parking lot. We'll be waiting on you to escort you to your locker room, and we'll be waiting on you when you come out. That type of thing. And we rebound like crazy, because I mean, Dennis Felton instilled offensive rebounding. And when I got to Cal State Fullerton, the same thing. That was one of our strong points, and it was one of mine. So just talk about how important identity is, and what would your practice look like outside of the energy part? Right.
So first of all, I got a good lesson at Belmont Abbey in terms of like my passion. So I grew up in a environment in which, you know, my coaches yelled, you know, they were yellers. They got up in your face. That was just how it was, you know? And so I thought that's how it was. I didn't know that there was other way of how you're supposed to articulate how you're feeling to somebody until I got to college. I'll never forget, I had a great game and thought that, you know, coach was calling me back to the office to tell me how great of a game I had. And she was actually coming to tell me about how I needed to talk better to my teammates, and that if I couldn't get that figured out, that I wasn't going to be on the team. I'm looking at her like, what you talking about? You know? And so I got a good lesson then. I just didn't know, you know, I didn't know, and people receive things differently. So you're going to see a passionate, energetic person out of me, but I don't yell all of the time. You know, if I yell, there's a reason why I yell. I'm not one of those yellers as a coach. When you come and you watch a Charlotte practice, you're going to see that our players, they play hard, period. Like, we are never going to be outworked. We are never going to be outworked. They're always going to be attentive to us as we're talking. We listen to them when they talk. You know, we are going to go out there and we are going to leave everything we have on the court. I can say, you know, considering how the season ended, you know, for all of us in women's basketball and other sports, I can say that our last game we played, we left it all out there. We right. did. You know, a lot of people say, you know, all the time, you should play your last game like it's your last, or play every game like it's your last. And most people don't do that. But I can honestly say we did that. And we did that every game. And we always do that every game. And so you're going to see that, hey, I'll go through a wall for you, coach. Whatever you need me to do, that's what we're going to do. That's what you would see if you came in to watch Charlotte.
And our last question of the day will be, as we're both young coaches, but if you're giving a coach some advice that's fresh out of college, don't know what they want to do, they're a graduate assistant on a staff, or they're volunteering as a JV coach or anything like that, they're just young, getting into the game, or they could be 40 starting out coaching. Because that can make the definition of a young coach. What advice would you give them to help them move forward and propel their career?
Well, the first thing I would say is to be a sponge. Literally learn as much as you can from people that you respect and admire in the business, in terms of what you want to be, who you want to be. And I always say you need to act as if you're in the job that you want now, so that once you get there, you'll be able to thrive in that job.
Right.
And that, people always say to me, I never see you in sweats when you come out recruiting, and you never will, because people aren't gonna just look at me as a PE teacher, because that's what some people think of us as, is just a PE teacher. Nothing wrong with PE teachers, but you get what I'm saying. So I dress up when I go. I usually wear some slacks. I wear something when I go recruiting. And so, you are the ones that are given the image of what people, perception is reality, what I just said, and however people perceive you is how you are in their minds. So I would say to be a sponge, always dress for success, and then be well versed. Don't be just known as a recruiter. Don't be known just as an X's and O person. Don't be known, you don't want to be known as just pigeonholed into one thing or another. And really networking and building genuine relationships, not just so you can say, I got this person's number, call them if I need a job. Like, really get to know people. And anybody that knows me knows that I form genuine relationships with coaches, parents, players, whoever, just because that's who I am. And so I think those genuine relationships, that's how I got my first job, was a genuine relationship, and someone seeing that I worked hard at everything that I did, and that if I just use that work ethic, that I could be whatever I wanted to be in this game. And so just, don't just check the boxes, really be the captain of your own ship, build some genuine relationships, and learn as much as you can. Learn as much as you can, and just kind of go from there.
Well, anything else you want to tell the viewers that are watching? This will go on my Facebook page. I'll send you the link, as it'll be on my YouTube page too.
Okay.
Anything else you want to give out? Any more advice? Or
I think everybody wants to be on the college level, but it's not all glitz and glamour. I tell people all the time, people want to be Jay-Z and Beyonce. Well, they don't know what it took for them to get there. I think that there are a lot of great high school and AAU coaches out there. And that I think, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you water it. And I think you need to water and be great where your feet are right now. And if the opportunity presents itself for whatever reason, then you can then go and pursue whatever avenues you are. But there is a need for people who want these kids to be successful, not just because they're trying to get a job, but because they care about them and care about their growth and their development on the court and off the court. So kudos to you all that want to be that. Like, people ask me all the time, I have no desire to be a head coach at all. Not one desire. I promise you, not one desire. Now, I promised myself I never would say never, because I said I'd never coach, and look at me now. So I don't have a desire to be a head coach. I have a desire to be the best assistant and to be the buffer between, my boss and everything else, and everyone else that is associated with our program. And there's a need for that. The body has a whole bunch of different parts. Everybody can't be the eyes. Everybody can't be the nose. Everybody can't be the hand. And I enjoy being the hand, to be able to extend the hand out to whoever needs it. That's my gift.
Gotcha. Well, I know I said one last question, but there was a question that just popped up, and
Okay.
it's about recruitment. The question is, do recruiters actually attend AAU events actually looking for players, or do they already go with who they have in mind?
Great question. And that depends on the coach. So I know plenty of coaches that only go and to see who's on their list. When their list is done, they leave, but then there's me, that I get there at 8:00. Whoever's playing at 8:00, I'm in there. And if I don't have anybody on my list, I'm eyeball tested. All right, let me just walk around, see who catches my eye. And then whoever's on my list, I'll go. If I have an open time, I'm not leaving the gym to go get lunch. Whoever else is going to get lunch, I'll have them bring me something back, or I'll bring my own in. And then I'm going around and I'm watching and seeing what I can see. So it all depends. Everybody's different. Another thing that I learned from Lynn Bria, look, we paying all this money for this tournament. You better be able to go and tell me something about every one of these teams that are in here. And so I would have to write notes so that if one of the coaches called me, I could say, hey, I saw you at, Deep South, ... There's nobody right now for us, but I love to continue building this relationship. Maybe one day there will be. And those coaches appreciate it.
I definitely
and
understand.
also, I always like to watch the kids that nobody's watching them either. What'd you say?
I said, I understand that whole being there at 8 a.m. and don't leave till 9 o'clock at night.
Yep.
Definitely understand that.
Yep. And I like to go and I watch the kids that don't have anybody watching them either. Because I think every kid should have at least one coach to watch them. Who knows? You might find somebody, but every kid deserves to have at least one coach. It don't have to be the whole game, for a few minutes, but at least stop by to see him. I try to show some love like that.
That's just because you're just nice.
I'm the hand.
You are the hand that tries to help everybody.
Yep.
Well, I really thank you. There hasn't been another question to pop up on the feed because I actually have it up on the phone too. So
Okay.
I'm going to take us off here in just a second. Well, I thank you all Coach, I thank you for taking a couple hours or so out your day to spend some time with me and talk to me live anyways. I appreciate the information that you've given out to my viewers, to our viewers, I should say. It's not just me because you're helping me make this show. I'm really doing this basically just to have other coaches get help to hear something that they want to, that may make them better as a coach. Not necessarily any motives behind it, but using my resources to just help other coaches for free because, we don't have anything else to do in the pandemic. So I guess I'm taking part of you and using my hand to help. So I really appreciate you taking time to be on the Full Court Press with Coach Jay and letting me put you out there live so everybody can see.
No problem.
I'm going to end this episode and then I'll be right with you, Coach.
Okay.